Weeks after 4 U.S. soldiers were killed in Niger, information is still trickling out about exactly what happened. Many lawmakers, including Arizona Senator John McCain, are demanding more information about the attack, which may have been a trap set up by villagers. Margaret Brennan has the latest.
The 12 U.S. soldiers and 30 Nigerian forces had been on a reconnaissance mission for nearly 24 hours. The patrol then received new orders to meet with elders in the village of Tongo Tongo, where an ISIS offshoot had recently been recruiting supporters. A U.S. official tells CBS News that the patrol wanted to speak with the elders about countering ISIS's expansion. They may also have been searching for a wanted terrorist. The villagers delayed the troops' departure, and when they left, they were diverted from their planned route for unknown reasons. That's when they were ambushed by 50 enemy fighters. U.S. officials say it is unclear whether the attack was planned or simply one of opportunity. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Joseph Dunford.
So they did not expect resistance on this particular patrol, at least when they first planned it.
When the attack was over, 3 U.S. soldiers were mortally wounded, 2 injured, and 1 stranded. Sergeant LaDavid Johnson was separated from the group, and his body recovered 48 hours later by Nigerian forces. Military investigators and members of Congress are now asking whether this was a failure of intelligence or preparation. White House spokesperson Sarah Sanders.
We're going to make sure that we get full and adequate answers for not just the American people, but for the families of those that were lost.
800 U.S. troops are in Niger to advise and assist local forces in their fight against terrorism.
Americans aren't doing the actual fighting unless it's self-defense, and in this instance, to me, it clearly was self-defense.
Visa Williams served as ambassador to Niger during the Obama administration.
For us, it's important because Niger can create a bulwark. It can be, we can, if we can stop and help them stop terrorists there, then we have less to worry about on the home front.
CBS News spoke with a family member of one of the injured U.S. soldiers. He's a staff sergeant with 7 deployments, and he's back at Fort Bragg recovering from a bullet wound to his elbow. Meanwhile, Tony, Nigerian authorities have arrested that village elder.
Margaret, in your piece, you mentioned the ISIS offshoot that had some ties to the village there in Niger. What more can you tell us about that offshoot?
Well, what we know is this is a group that identifies as ISIS of the Greater Sahara or ISIS of Western Africa. And basically, this is a group of militants who've had various affiliations in previous years with Al-Qaeda's regional affiliate there, and now recently pledged bayat, or pledged allegiance to ISIS and its leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. You know them from the battlefields in Iraq and Syria. But what U.S. officials say is they have seen no connection other than this claim of one that would in any way suggest that there is money going from central ISIS, core ISIS, so to speak, or fighters. This is really, U.S. officials emphasize, a local insurgency or militant group, but it's in an area that is just a toxic mix. You have, it's surrounded on 3 borders, basically, by different militant groups. You've got a mix of Boko Haram, you've got Al-Qaeda, you've got ISIS in there, and it's emphasized here that while this group claims to be part of ISIS, they haven't shown the capabilities that you've seen elsewhere. But clearly, this was a lethal attack, and we lost 4 Americans.
Clearly capable of such an attack. When you add it all up, how prevalent is ISIS in Africa at this point?
Well, what U.S. officials say is, and it's an estimate, there are about 10 to 15 countries where they have seen groups that claim or pledge allegiance to ISIS. But you've also got Al-Qaeda offshoots, and remember Boko Haram from those missing girls from Chad and Cameroon area. There's a real focus there. So as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs said yesterday, General Joseph Dunford, you have U.S. presence in about 53 different African countries. So this is really a counterinsurgency effort on many levels. It was increased in the past few years by the Obama administration, and the Trump administration has claimed that they're going to hit hard at ISIS in any and all of its forms and work with these advise and assist missions. We have not heard from the White House whether this incident, this fatal one, means anything in terms of the U.S. role there. AFRICOM has been investigating this since the beginning of October, but now it's become a political football And that means you've got leaders in Congress asking some pretty tough questions.
And those tough questions, they are aimed at areas where they feel transparency is not yet optimal. Joseph Dunford, the General of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, acknowledged the perception that transparency was not where it needed to be. What are the areas that lawmakers still want to bring further into the light?
Well, just even the new detail that we've uncovered through reporting in the past 24 hours, that this mission had been reconnaissance purely. The patrol had been out on what was sort of described as a standard mission, but they were out for more than 24 hours. That was a long time to be out there, and then the mission changed. Who changed that mission? Where did that intel come from? Was it from the U.S.? Was it from Nigerian forces, or were they from our allies, the French, who we work with quite closely? And who was the individual that these forces were going after or searching for, because we know the leader of ISIS in the Greater Sahara, who's very much wanted by U.S. and French forces. But is there any reason to believe it was someone of that level, or was this simply, as others suggest, an effort to get villagers to push back and to counter ISIS through various different forms, not necessarily something that was going to be a combat-like situation? So was this a failure of intelligence, or was this a failure of preparation?
Yeah, and why were they diverted off route at the final moment there before the ambush? Margaret Brennan for us at the White House, finding out for us bit by bit. Margaret, thank you very much.
Thank you.